This is why the convergence is so dangerous for Trump. Congress moving toward impeachment from one direction, judges preparing contempt from the other. Both branches acting independently yet in parallel. Both branches asserting constitutional authority against a president they believe is crossing limits. Both branches tightening pressure with no avenue for Trump to escape both simultaneously. He is being cornered, pressured, surrounded by institutional forces designed to keep presidents in check, and the speed of that convergence is accelerating. To understand the severity of the moment, you have to see how these two crises, impeachment and contempt, are not just parallel, but interlocking. Each one reinforces the other. Each one heightens the stakes of the other. Congress accuses Trump of tyranny, of overstepping his constitutional limits, of trying to consolidate power. And the judiciary is simultaneously documenting Trump's systematic defiance of court authority. Congress says Trump is attempting to rule without restraint. Judges say Trump is acting as if legal restraints don't apply to him. Both branches are arriving at the same conclusion from different angles, and Trump is now trapped between those conclusions. Let's return to the impeachment articles for a moment, because their implications reach far beyond a symbolic vote. When Congress charges a president with tyranny, it is not issuing a casual insult. Tyranny is perhaps the most serious constitutional accusation possible. The founders wrote the impeachment power specifically to prevent tyrannical rule. They created checks and balances specifically to contain it. For the House to accuse the president of attempting to establish tyrannical rule is to say, in plain constitutional language, the president of the United States is acting like a dictator. The resolution makes clear that, in their view, allowing Trump to remain in office poses an ongoing threat to the Constitution itself. This isn't about one bad decision or one policy dispute. This is about a pattern, a trajectory that Congress believes jeopardizes the very structure of American democracy, and they are preparing to act. But here's the complication. While Congress moves toward removal, the judiciary is moving toward enforcement. Judges are saying, you cannot ignore our orders. Judges are saying, you cannot treat the rule of law as optional. Judges are saying, if you continue, we will use our power up to and including jail. So Trump faces the possibility of being removed by Congress and simultaneously facing jail time through contempt. Not sequentially, not one after the other, but at the same time. Think about that. We could reach a moment where, as the Senate debates whether to remove Trump from office, federal judges are issuing orders for the arrest or confinement of officials who violated injunctions. We could reach a moment where Trump leaves office under impeachment while members of his administration enter jail cells under contempt rulings. We could reach a moment where constitutional branches collide in ways unseen since the Civil War era. This is not hyperbole. This is the scenario that emerges when one branch accuses a president of tyranny and another concludes that the president is disobeying the law. Now let's talk about why contempt is so dangerous to Trump personally. At first glance, contempt might seem like something directed only at lower-level officials, the ones who execute orders rather than give them. But that is not the case. Judges can hold any official in contempt, including ones appointed by the president, including ones reporting directly to the Oval Office, including, under certain interpretations, Trump himself, if the violation is sufficiently direct. And the key point is this: Trump cannot intervene. He cannot tell judges, don't hold my people in contempt. He cannot shut down proceedings. He cannot order the Justice Department to rescue anyone from civil contempt, because civil contempt bypasses the Justice Department entirely. He cannot order the courts to stand down. He cannot obstruct contempt findings. This means Trump could watch his officials being handcuffed while he is still president. He could watch judges impose million-dollar fines on his agencies. He could watch the judiciary strip away his administration's ability to operate, and he would be powerless to stop it. That right there is where the real constitutional crisis lies. Because if Trump continues to defy court orders, judges will defend their authority. They will defend the rule of law. They will defend the Constitution. And if Trump refuses to yield, the resulting clash between the executive and judicial branches could reshape the boundaries of presidential power for generations. Let's consider the timeline again, because timing is everything here. On April 28, 2025, Thanedar introduced the impeachment resolution with 7 articles. On May 13th, He filed notice to bring it forward as a privileged resolution. That means the House is now on a countdown to decide whether Trump should be impeached. On April 18, 2025, Judge Boasberg issued his finding of probable cause for contempt regarding the deportation violations. His deadline for compliance is already in play. And that contempt is just one of many cases bubbling in federal courts across the country. So within weeks, possibly within days, two separate constitutional mechanisms could activate. Congress could vote to impeach Trump. Judges could move forward with contempt proceedings, and both could happen in the same news cycle, the same 48 hours, maybe even the same day. Imagine watching cable news as the House votes on impeachment, while a federal judge announces that contempt hearings will begin the next morning. Imagine senators preparing for a trial while hearing that high-ranking officials are being fined $50,000 a day for refusing to comply with federal injunctions. Imagine the country facing the possibility of a president removed from office while his administration faces legal consequences so severe they could halt executive functioning. This convergence, the impeachment convergence and the contempt convergence, is the ultimate test of the Constitution's resilience. It asks one critical question: what happens when a president tries to stay above the law at the exact moment the other branches decide to enforce the law? The founders designed a system where no president could become a monarch. They designed a system where Congress could remove a president for dangerous abuses of power. They designed a system where judges could force presidents to obey the law. But they also understood that if a president simultaneously defied Congress and the courts, the nation could face a constitutional emergency. That is the moment we are now entering. And remember, this entire crisis began with something deceptively simple. A judge ordered that asylum seekers not be deported. The administration did it anyway. That violation triggered a legal response that exposed a much deeper problem: the consistent refusal of Trump's administration to abide by court rulings. And that refusal, in turn, gave weight to Congress's accusation that Trump was acting tyrannically. This is how constitutional crises form, not with one explosive event, but with a pattern of small violations that stack and stack and stack until the other branches can no longer ignore them. The judiciary is preparing to act. Congress is preparing to act. And Trump is running out of moves. The House is moving toward impeachment. Judges are moving toward contempt. Trump is moving toward a point where he must choose: comply with the law or collide with the Constitution. And so far, every signal from his administration indicates that compliance is not the direction they intend to go. The stakes could not be higher. The country is watching. The world is watching. The system is being tested in ways it has never been tested before. And the outcome will determine whether the Constitution can withstand a president who believes he is untouchable. All of this brings us to the central question: what happens if impeachment and contempt collide at the same moment? What happens if Congress moves to remove Trump at the same time, federal judges move to punish Trump's administration through fines, sanctions, or jail time? That scenario isn't wild speculation anymore. It's not a what if. It's the direct, logical outcome of the paths both branches are already on. Congress is advancing an impeachment resolution built on allegations of constitutional violations and authoritarian behavior. Judges are documenting rule-breaking, issuing warnings, and preparing enforcement actions. These trains are on the same track, pointed at the same target, and accelerating toward the same destination. Let's look at how each branch's actions reinforce the other. Congress says Trump is abusing power, rejecting checks and balances, and undermining constitutional limits. Judges are simultaneously saying Trump is defying court orders, ignoring legal boundaries, and treating the judiciary as powerless. Congress says Trump is trying to rule like a tyrant. Judges say Trump is acting as if he's above the law. Both branches are arriving at the same conclusion: that Trump's conduct is incompatible with constitutional governance. And here is the most dangerous part of the convergence. If Trump refuses to comply once judges start enforcing contempt orders, the judiciary has the power to escalate consequences. Judges can order escalating fines. Judges can order the seizure of documents. Judges can order the appointment of special masters. Judges can order the detention of officials. Judges can even refer matters to U.S. Marshals, because contempt is not an advisory ruling, it's enforceable law. Now imagine all of that unfolding at the same time the Senate is debating whether Trump should remain in office. Imagine a president trying to fight an impeachment trial while his administration is simultaneously being sanctioned, fined, or jailed. Imagine the chaos. Imagine the constitutional panic. Imagine the political firestorm. Trump could be impeached on a Tuesday and face contempt rulings on a Wednesday. The House could vote to remove him on a Thursday while judges prepared detention orders for Friday. This is not a fantasy scenario. It is the logical conclusion of the two processes already moving through Washington. And Trump knows it. That's why he's lashing out at judges. That's why he's attacking the legitimacy of impeachment. That's why he's portraying both branches as partisan enemies rather than constitutional actors, because he knows these threats are real. He knows the machinery is turning. He knows both branches are preparing to act in ways he cannot fully control. And that brings us to another critical component of this crisis: Trump's inability to use the Justice Department as a shield. Normally, presidents who fear prosecution try to rely on the Justice Department to protect them. But civil contempt bypasses the department entirely. Judges don't need prosecutors. Judges don't need indictments. Judges don't need grand juries. Civil contempt is an arrow the judiciary fires directly. In criminal contempt, even if Trump tries to block it through the Justice Department, judges can still refer matters to outside prosecutors or special counsels. They can still push the legal process forward. Simply put, Trump cannot use his executive power to stop judges from using their judicial power. That's what makes this moment unlike anything in modern history. Congress is pushing from above. Judges are pushing from below. And Trump finds himself squeezed between two immovable constitutional walls. Here's where the situation gets even more unstable. If Trump responds to impeachment by escalating his defiance of court orders, judges will view that as further evidence of tyranny. And if judges respond with contempt rulings, Congress will view that as further justification for impeachment. Each branch's actions strengthen the legitimacy of the other's actions. Each branch's findings validate the other branch's concerns. This is a feedback loop, a constitutional vortex, a spiral of authority closing in on the presidency. And Trump has no institutional tools left to break out of it. If he fires officials who refuse to break court orders, he looks more tyrannical. If he encourages officials to violate orders, contempt penalties escalate. If he attacks judges, he strengthens the argument that he is violating the First Amendment. If he attacks Congress, he reinforces the tyranny charge. Every move he makes accelerates the crisis. Let's zoom out for a moment. The founders designed impeachment as a remedy for high crimes and misdemeanors. They designed contempt powers to preserve the rule of law. They designed checks and balances to prevent exactly this scenario: a president attempting to rule outside the boundaries of constitutional authority. And those systems, impeachment and contempt, are now activating simultaneously. Here is the nightmare scenario the system is trying to avoid: a president who refuses to follow court orders while also refusing to accept congressional oversight, a president who tries to override both the judiciary and the legislature, a president who tries to elevate his own authority above all other branches, a president who acts as if the Constitution does not restrict him. That is why Congress invoked the term tyranny in its impeachment articles, because tyranny is not defined by bombs or armies or coups. Tyranny is defined by the concentration of power. Tyranny is defined by the erosion of boundaries. Tyranny is defined by the refusal to obey constitutional limits. And that is what two branches now believe Trump is doing. Let's come back to the practical outcome. Once contempt proceedings begin, once judges declare that the administration violated court orders and will face penalties, the executive branch enters crisis mode. Agencies must choose whether to comply with judges or with Trump. Officials must choose between following the law or following Trump's commands. And Trump must choose between escalating conflict or backing down.